Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says the U.S. is ready to talk to Iran with no preconditions. Pompeo is currently touring Europe, discussing rising tensions with several allies. The Secretary of State has softened his language following President Trump's comment last week that he is willing to talk to Iran.
We're prepared to engage in a conversation with no preconditions. We're ready to sit down with them. We're certainly prepared to have that conversation when the Iranians conclude that they want to behave like a normal nation. There's real challenges inside of Iran today. They're not caused by our economic sanctions. They're caused by 40 years of the Islamic regime not taking care of its people, instead using their resources.
Now, Iran responded to Pompeo's statement, saying the offer was wordplay. It also said it's up to the U.S. to come back to the negotiating table. Joining me now from Washington is Senior Fellow for the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Benham Ben Taleblu. Benham, so how does this differ from Pompeo's previous statements on Iran?
Morning, Don. Great to be with you. I actually think it's a bit of the same here. It's a bit of consistency that may have gotten obscured in the past year of max pressure in the media, in international headlines, and of course among America's friends and allies abroad. But the May 21 speech last year by Secretary Pompeo laid out 12 points that would not be the predicate or preconditions for talks, but reality, what a comprehensive, more final deal that addresses the broad array of Iranian threats would look like. So when the Secretary said that there would be no preconditions, I don't necessarily see that as a change in U.S. policy.
Secretary Pompeo's boss, the president, seems to be softening his language with Iran. He had this to say last week during his visit to Japan.
I'm not looking to hurt Iran at all. I'm looking to have Iran say no nuclear weapons. We have enough problems in this world right now with nuclear weapons. No nuclear weapons for Iran. And I think we'll make a deal.
All right, so what do the conflicting messages from not only the president but from Bolton and Pompeo tell us about how the White House is handling this situation?
I think looking more broadly at U.S. policy here, it is a policy of behavior change, one that doesn't just address the nuclear issue, but the broad array of threats that the Islamic Republic has posed to the international community for the past 40 years. Looking at the president's statement in Tokyo, I think that may have been a one-off, perhaps even motivated by Iran's discussion to escalate specifically on the nuclear file, which we'll see the results of in the coming IAEA reports earlier this summer. But I think that ultimately the administration's goal has been to use one tool, economic sanctions, economic pressure, to get one country, Iran, to come back to the negotiating table. And there are only very few instances in Iranian history when they do a 180 on key national security objectives. So the administration, whether Bolton, Pompeo, or the president himself, all appear to be gambling that Iran can again come back to the negotiating table when faced with this proposition, that there is no way out but through.
It feels a little like good cop, bad cop, but that, maybe I watched too much 70s TV. National Security Advisor John Bolton says he has evidence now linking Iran to the oil tanker attacks and may be presenting that evidence to the UN this week. So what do you think he's hoping to accomplish with that? Again, to just keep forcing Iran's hand?
I think this administration has had a tough time getting domestic and foreign critics to believe some of the things that Iran has been perpetually doing at home and in the region. You look at some of the things the administration has revealed at the joint base Anacostia Bowling, which is short-range ballistic missiles, rockets, small arms, RPGs, drones, suicide boats, and still many in Washington, many across America, and many international community don't seem to believe that Iran is engaging in this export of the revolution and undermining of much of the regional balance in the Middle East. So I think by the administration either declassifying or continuing to show Iran's hand when Iran specifically engages in proxy actions to disguise its hands and to increase the challenges of attribution back to Tehran, this is an attempt to kind of be more transparent, show what the regime is doing, and to generate more support for the pressure policy.
And what has Iran's response been?
Iran's response is to always kind of poo-poo or downplay some of these shows. They were not at all receptive, as you can imagine, to the two displays at Joint Base Anacostia Bowling. Usually they'll say that some U.S. partner or U.S. ally kind of painted on Iranian slogans onto some of these weapons. That, of course, is laughable. The regime is proud of exporting these weapons as proud as it is of exporting its revolution. But there is going to be a little bit more of a political tug and war over this, because Iran will continue to escalate on the regional file, because under year 1 of max pressure, the regime was kind of patient. Under year 2 of max pressure, the regime is signaling that it too has escalation options and wants to continue to try to cut at America, even if it ultimately does want to come back to the table.
Really interesting. Benham, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.